Let's cut right to the chase. Application security can feel incredibly intimidating, but today we're turning it into an accessible, actionable blueprint. In this explainer, we're rolling up our sleeves and building a step-by-step Laravel Breeze authentication system. If you've ever stressed over whether your app is truly locked down or just felt a bit overwhelmed by user authentication in general, you are in exactly the right place. Here is our game plan for today. We'll start with the authentication foundation, move through the initial project setup, install Laravel Breeze, peek under the hood at the registration code flow, and wrap up with some absolutely crucial security configurations. Section 1. The Authentication Foundation. Okay, before we write a single line of code, we have to get our terminology straight, because authentication and authorization get mixed up constantly in this industry. Authentication is strictly about verifying who a user is. It's like checking an ID at the door, usually using an email and password, just to establish a session. Authorization is what happens after they are inside. It's verifying what they are actually allowed to do. Can they access the admin dashboard? Can they delete a post? Today, we are laser-focused on the who. To handle that who, Laravel abstracts the messy, sensitive parts of security into two really clever paradigms: guards and providers. Think of guards as defining how a user proves who they are for each request, like using a session guard that relies on HTTP cookies for a standard web app. Providers, on the flip side, define where those users are retrieved from in your database, usually via Laravel's native eloquent models. It's a beautiful separation of concerns right out of the box. Section 2. Initial project setup. All right, let's get our hands dirty. Spinning up a fresh environment is super straightforward. First, you run the command Laravel new Auth training app. Second, cd into that newly created directory. And third, and this is a step you literally cannot skip, you must configure your .env file. You've got to set your database connection, host, port, and database name. Without those credentials pointing to your local database, our application has absolutely nowhere to store our secure users. Section 3. Installing Laravel Breeze. Now for the fun part. If you're building along with me, these are the exact terminal commands you need to execute. We start with composer require Laravel/breeze dev to pull the package into our project. Then we run php artisan breeze install blade to scaffold out all of our front-end views and routing. And finally, php artisan migrate creates the necessary tables right in our database. Just like that, in 3 simple commands, you have a fully functioning login and registration system. It's kind of like magic. Section 4. The registration code flow. But we don't just want to blindly trust the magic, right? Think about it for a second. When a new visitor types in their name, email, and password and clicks submit, what actually happens? How does the framework get from a basic HTTP request to a securely logged-in session? Well, what's really fascinating is the completely linear behind-the-scenes flow inside Laravel's registered user controller. It executes in 5 distinct steps. First, it validates the request, ensuring the email is unique and the password rules are actually met. Second, it creates the user in the database. Third, it dispatches a registered event. Fourth, it calls auth.login with that user object to instantly authenticate them. And fifth, it seamlessly redirects them straight to their dashboard. Clean, fast, and incredibly efficient. Section 5. Crucial security configurations. We need to slow down here as we enter the fortification stage, because this right here is the golden rule. Never, under any circumstances, store plain text passwords in a database, period. I really cannot state this with enough gravity. If your database is ever compromised, plain text passwords means your users are instantly vulnerable to attacks across the entire internet. It's a total disaster. So, how does Laravel execute that golden rule? Through password hashing, specifically using the hash.make method. Hashing is a one-way cryptographic function. By default, Laravel uses incredibly strong algorithms like bcrypt or Argon2. That means even if a bad actor steals your database, decryption is fundamentally impossible. You literally cannot reverse engineer a hashed password back into its original text. And adding even more security in Laravel is ridiculously simple. Just by opening your user model and adding implements must verify email to the class definition, you instantly activate a massive layer of defense. It enforces strict email validation, completely stopping unverified users from accessing sensitive routes until they click a link to prove they actually own the email address they registered with. Account recovery is another notoriously vulnerable area. But Laravel's password reset mechanism handles it beautifully. When a user requests a reset, Laravel generates a secure, totally random, time-sensitive token. It then hashes that token in a dedicated password_reset_tokens table and dispatches an email with a uniquely mapped URL. This meticulous workflow completely blocks unauthorized account takeovers during that highly sensitive recovery phase. Now, it's definitely worth noting exactly where these core best practices come from. The structured approach we're looking at today is drawn straight from the Computer Communication Development Institute's training module on Laravel. Their curriculum really hammers home a critical philosophy: rely on prepared, battle-tested ecosystems, rather than trying to hand-roll custom security logic from scratch. So, here is your crucial takeaway checklist. If you want to keep your application locked down, follow these 3 rules. 1. Keep your Laravel installations and packages up to date to constantly patch security vulnerabilities. 2. Lean on prepared ecosystems like Laravel Breeze. And 3. Please pay close attention to this one. Enforce mass assignment protection by explicitly defining your $fillable fields in your eloquent models. This is what stops attackers from forcing updates to database columns they shouldn't even be able to touch. Passwords have been our standard forever, but the landscape is shifting fast. As emerging tech like WebAuthn and passkeys start replacing traditional passwords with local biometric signatures, which literally mitigates phishing entirely, how are you going to adapt your Laravel applications for the future? It's a fascinating evolution to watch, and Laravel's already paving the way. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep your codes secure, and I'll see you next time.